Guess what we have? Another movie about cars versus another car company. I just saw Ferrari literally less than 3 weeks ago. I'm over this already. Race for Glory, Audi versus Lancia, was directed by Stefano Mordini, and it comes to us as another story and another twist on the formula of a car races another car company in a big race. In this movie we follow as the 1983 Rally Championship is fast and coming, and the German car company of Audi races against Lancia of Italy, and as the two companies rise to their full potential of rivalry, it is 1 versus 1 on the track to see which one claims the ultimate prize. Audi versus Lancia is just a very mediocre movie. That's the best way I can put it. I'm going to get into my positives right away because I don't want to just sound like I'm trashing on the movie. And I will say, the performances in here are the driving factor of why this movie keeps you somewhat able to watch it without being entirely bored. The actors give very excellent performances. They manage to be charismatic when they have to be, and they can bring out that hamminess that's necessary in a film like this to give that energy boost, to really give it something to give you some meat to sink into. And they've done it well enough, mixed with some of the writing that does help them in parts, that the movie can consistently kind of keep moving at a pace where you are progressing through events. If you don't know the events, I don't know how you feel, but like if you're aware of what happens, it does kind of help. If you don't, though, I feel like you might get a little lost in all of it and just wonder why things are happening, because not everything's movie's explained as well as it could be. I think they capture the 1980s aesthetic in here very well. There's a good vibe for that. The way they get everything with the way the technology works, the vehicles, and the music, it's well done. They've done a good enough job at it that you at least feel like you're experiencing that era. You don't feel like you're watching something from the 2000s. I think some of the credit has to go to the color grading as well. This movie is shot in a way, when I was listening to what the director said, where he used a different kind of filming, so that way when he got there with the lenses and such, it would more closely resemble things you would see from back in the day. And there is some archival footage that you'd see is sprinkled in here a little bit, and that helps with the tone a little bit as well. It gives you kind of a documentary feel in parts, which I really liked, and I love the fact that it put a lot of emphasis on the actual cars. I love that so much that we got to literally learn a little bit about them. Well thought out, well planned. Other than that, there's nothing to this movie. There's really not a lot of substance here. It's just a lot of, like I said, talking about cars, which, like I said, while I love it, it certainly struggles to really get anything beyond that. The characters feel very thin here. There isn't much to them. There's like the bread for the sandwich, and there's really nothing else. There's like a little bit of mayonnaise on there, but there's not a lot of meat. That's like the best way I can describe this movie. There's just a lot of that surface level things, but nothing's going on underneath. And I think the score in here is rather weak. The way the races are shot is absolutely boring. Like, it's just uninspiring to look at. You're never invested. It's a lot of just camera sits on the side of the road, cars go or it like swings, and it's just traditional ways of shooting someone in a vehicle. You never feel like you're in the action. You never feel like you're getting a sense of this race. And by the time you get to the big final race where you should feel this intense rivalry, you're not really feeling that. You're just like, well, we're at the end. Let's see how it ends. And also, this movie is pretty explicitly biased. Like, watching this film, you can tell it's taking a side, which doesn't help as much with the way it's trying to be a little neutral at times. Its attempts at character growth and development don't really work. It's like one person in here is really developed and everyone else isn't. And there's just some clunky attempts at like really great monologues in here that don't necessarily work. They're just strange. It's choices that don't make a lot of sense sometimes, and it feels very forced and kind of movie-ish in the wrong way. I don't think you ever really buy that these are events taking place. You're just kind of watching a movie, and the movie does things that reminds you you're watching a film, and you can't fully get sucked into that world the way you entirely should be. While you can buy everything around it, like the buildings, the cars, the music, you don't really buy that you're experiencing something much. And I think you leave the movie pretty uninspired, and you're going to leave a little empty. You don't feel like you got the full entertainment that you should have. And with a movie about cars, you really need to be selling that. And it needs to have more on the surface than just the most basic of concepts and someone saying, hey, here's an event. We'll recount it in the correct order that's sequential, but let's not add much flavor to it. And this movie is very lacking in moments to make you laugh, to give you some levity. It's very dour and down for a lot of it, and serious, but take itself too seriously and forgets to give you that levity to kind of relieve you a little bit and just kind of be like, all right, phew, there we go. It doesn't do that very much. And I think the script is very weak in here. It's just, it doesn't know what it needs to do to make this movie investing for an audience. And it's trying to find ways every now and then, but it loses its path a lot of times. And it's just struggling with what it wants to say to you and what it's trying to tell the audience. And that's the same with cinematography in here and a lot of other choices. I gotta say, it's a little bit of a mixed bag to me, and I don't recommend going to see this. It's just kind of a movie that happens, that's the best I can say it, and then you leave and you're gonna forget about it in 38 minutes. I had to take a lot of notes to remember stuff about this because it just wasn't that memorable, and it doesn't capture most of what you should feel about this race or explain strategy or anything or characters very well. Don't check this out. Stay at home. Wait for something else. Save your money. It's just not worth going to go check out and see. I'm going to give Race for Glory, Audi versus Lancia, a 4 out of 10. So thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate you, and I will see you all next time.